Oh, dude, he's doing, oh my God, he's doing bilateral talks with Iran. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Iran is literally forcing multipolarity. That's crazy. I cannot believe it. It's unheard of. I will be honest with you, I never thought it would be Iran. I told you. All right. Let's get to the goddamn president.
Is preparing to address Congress this morning.
I gotta
strike
piss.
a tone of unity as tensions over the war in Iran and the Epstein scandal loom large. This after a royal welcome. The King and Queen Camilla touched down in Washington and headed straight to the White House for tea with the Trumps, taking time to stroll through the South Lawn, checking out the presidential beehive with the President and First Lady, before going to a garden party at the ambassador's residence. Today, after an official ceremonial welcome this morning, King Charles will head to Capitol Hill. In a 20-minute speech, he will reference Saturday night's shooting and express his solidarity and support. His remarks have been carefully crafted by senior diplomats, and he'll call the UK-US relationship one of the greatest alliances in human history and call for our shared values to be defended. And after President Trump's stinging attacks on Britain for not joining the war in Iran, Charles will talk of reconciliation and renewal.
He's obviously acutely aware that everyone is going to be hanging on to his every word. Because of the situation politically, this has become a very high-stakes visit, and King Charles is walking a bit of a tightrope. He needs to utilise that soft power and have influence, but he can't stray into anything that...
It's so funny that basically everyone knows exactly what's going on, except for Trump, I guess. Everyone knows he's a baby. It's basically like bringing Mickey Mouse out. You know what I mean? The king is the Mickey Mouse of the United Kingdom. Trump really likes the royal family. The UK is aware of this. They know Keir Starmer has no motion. They know Keir Starmer is a fucking loser and unbearable. And I guess it's one of the few instances where I kind of agree with Donald Trump in bullying Keir Starmer. Like, if I was in his shoes, I'd do the same exact thing because he just sucks so bad. So they have to send their powerful guns out, knowing full well that Trump actually has a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for the royal family. Trump wants to be a king anyway. So they're going through this process like a baby. We are treating the American president, the leader of the free world, like he is a baby, because he is a baby. Think about that. A goddamn child. People are basically walking around on eggshells where they're like, we got to bring the king out. We got to bring the fucking king out. I mean, it's great. As an American, I do actually like this a little bit. Like, I think, look, no disrespect to the United Kingdom. No disrespect to my British comrades out there, but I will say this. The royalty does deserve this humiliation. In my opinion, I think it's worth it. It's due, right? It's due time for the royals to be, tarred and feathered in this way, spiritually, right? Cucked. So I do think it's kind of good. Don't get mad at me. This is nothing to do with my British comrades and your daily struggles over there. Okay, I'm not talking shit about England. I'm just saying that, like, the concept of royalty, I do not understand. It's very strange and very silly, really. So it's wonderful that this, like, symbolism of monarchy that is resilient has to go through this ritualistic humiliation in an effort to create better relations between the UK and the United States of America. It's also funny that it's yet another example of Keir Starmer's incompetence, and he's so unbearable. He's so intensely disliked. It's impossible for him to do adequate diplomacy. So they have to go through the motions like this, and they have to send the king out like a goddamn like he's goddamn SpongeBob with a child's birthday pageantry at Chuck E. Cheese. Britain's ambassadorship to Washington said the U.S. has one true special relationship, probably Israel. Oh, not the UK, in remarks reported by the Financial Times that risk overshadowing King Charles's U.S. visit. He also criticized U.S. accountability over Jeffrey Epstein, saying it was extraordinary the scandal hasn't touched anybody despite links to prominent figures. Oh my God. Oh my God. Blah, blah, blah. is true. Everything here is 100% true. All facts, all facts, no printer. Okay. Oh my God, put that shit in the news. Oh my God, what an incredible hot mic moment. Christian Turner, UK ambassador to the US.
Is a phrase I try not to utter because it's quite nostalgic, it's quite backwards looking, and it has a lot of sort of baggage about it. I think there is probably one country that has a special relationship with the United States, and that's probably Israel. Is a phrase.
Yeah, you can't say this stuff, especially in England, by the way. I mean, you could say this in America, right? But British people are extra hard on the anti-Semitism allegations. They go nutty over it. They love that shit. Okay? It's their favorite thing. Oh no. Can't believe the UK ambassador to the US, Christian Turner, said something that 90% of the population of the Western world understand now. I don't even say believe because it's just the reality. And he had the audacity to, in a private moment, communicate the fucking truth. The truth that is no longer such a secret, by the way. A truth that everyone understands and recognizes and observes. Uh-oh, time to get fired, Christian Turner. That'll show him. That'll show him. That'll stop people from recognizing that America places Israel in a higher status than every other country, including, in many instances, Americans, right? Israel has killed American citizens. America doesn't do anything about it. Oh no, Christian Turner said the truth. You can't say that. It's unacceptable to say the truth. The truth that is now the overwhelmingly popular position as well. It's not even like, oh, this is a hidden truth that you can't say. It's one that everyone observes and everyone notices and everyone understands is the reality. But that is literally what the king's job is, a literal ambassador. That's true. I guess you're right. It's just funny to reduce yourself to this position when you're a monarch, I think. When you reduce yourself to this position where you have to be talked down by a figure that you know is repulsive, a hothead. Because normally, when you're the monarch, when you're the king, other people, both historically and even to this day, I think it's like kept up through a system of routines and, you know, there's like a way to address the king. There's certain things you can't say towards the king or about the king. There's like all these weird rules, right? So Trump doesn't care about any of that. And we know he doesn't care about any of that. He, as a matter of fact, enjoys violating those rules because he can. So I find it somewhat funny, somewhat entertaining to imagine a guy who has no respect for that status, who, you know, likes that you're royalty, but can like dominate you. And you're reducing yourself to simply a you know, Mickey Mouse style figure for the personal enjoyment and consumption of a baby man who you know is disgusting. He's disgusting. Trump is, right? And no, I don't think the king cares that he's a pedophile, right? Like, obviously, his brother is a pedophile in the same exact vein, right? So that's not even what I'm talking about. It's like infinitely more embarrassing that this repulsive figure gets to talk down to you. You're the king, and you are now the product of losing a 13-colony lead, reducing yourself to this servile status with hopes that you can actually create better relationships with the true empire that you are now a vassal to. Anyway, it's funny that he also had smoke for the Epstein situation. He criticized the U.S. accountability over Jeffrey Epstein, saying it was extraordinary that the scandal hasn't touched anybody despite links to prominent figures. Smoke. Christian Turner. I don't know this man at all. I suspect he's not a very good person, especially if he's the UK ambassador to the US. Given what I know about the former UK ambassador to the US, the guy he replaced, I don't know if he's that great of a guy, but he is correct here. Britain's ambassador to Washington has said America's only special relationship is probably Israel, not the UK, in remarks that risk embarrassing King Charles during his visit to the U.S. this week. Yeah, oh no, the truth is embarrassing the King Charles.
It's extraordinary to me that the the scandal over Epstein, convicted sex offender, has gone right to the top of the British system, brought down, senior member of the royal family, British ambassador to Washington, potentially the Prime Minister, and yet here in the US, it really hasn't touched anybody. I think that is an interesting question you should ask American lawmakers you meet about the different levels of accountability in our systems. We currently move on a hill to bring to account some of those senior...
Yeah, I mean, the guy, the king, had his brother arrested, apprehended, humiliated. He lost all of his titles even before this this latest round of legal scrutiny. Mendelssohn too. For better or for worse, there has been some semblance of accountability in the United Kingdom against Epstein affiliates. Now, we're just scratching the surface because Epstein was deeply connected with many Western governments, the United Kingdom being one of them, only one of them. And Epstein obviously is deeply embedded in the American espionage agencies, the American State Department. But in comparison to the way that the UK is handling, like, who has been punished in America? What high-profile figure has been punished for collaborating with a pedophile sex trafficker, a Mossad agent, an agent of the CIA? What American powerful financial figure? Nothing. The only accountability that has come for one person in the media was that one guy who was really excited about hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, and Barry Weiss did not even want to punish that person. He basically self-isolated. It's crazy. Oh yeah, a Harvard professor Larry Summers has been taken off of his I think he was the dean, right? He's no longer a dean or something. I mean, talk about a slap on the wrist, dude. Yeah, the Coldplay concert CEO got more punishment.
Andrew Lambert. Windsor has been now called in to come and testify before Congress, and he's announced before Congress. The first question I ask is, how many Americans have been called to testify before Congress when the Epstein files show a lot of very, very senior people, politicians, Bill Gates, all having a close association with it. Special relationship is a phrase I try not to utter because it's quite nostalgic, it's quite backwards looking, and it has a lot of sort of baggage about it. I think there is...
He's like, I'm jealous. Don't say special relationship, because the UK doesn't have a special relationship with America. Only one country has a special relationship, and that's Israel.
Only one country that has a special relationship with the United States, and that's probably Israel. So there is deep history and affinity between us. Particularly in our defence and security, we are intertwined. There are things we do together that no two other countries do. And as I've mentioned, our economies are very close. But I think if I'm honest, I don't think it's over. No, I don't agree with Mark Carney that we're in a moment of rupture. I think we're certainly at the end of an era, and the era is changing. But I don't think it's a break, as Carney advised at Davos. But I think we do need to work to redefine, particularly in defence and security, accept that we in Europe can't just rely on a US security umbrella. So the relationship will carry on if you want being special, but I think it's going to have to be different. And my advice to my Prime Minister is I can't just sit there and put my hands on my ears and say it's special, it's going to be fine. We've got to work really clearly to see what we, the UK, bring to the table. To get to a threshold where you remove the Prime Minister from the Labour Party, according to Labour Party rules, as I'm sure you know, is really quite hard. 80 MPs have to sign a letter in public, which is like signing a death warrant. It's much harder than for the Tories. So I think that is still quite difficult. And Keir personally is he's a stubborn guy. He's never lost a fight he's in. And so I think Keir saying I'm quitting is quite a high bar. So probably the moment I would look to is the May elections. If Labour does very badly in the May elections, I suspect the party will move to go over that threshold in removing, it seems to be the conventional thinking, if they do okay.
The King's speech is starting soon, not the movie. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what the fucking King has to say with his potato fingers.
For me, that's just me as a citizen speculating because I have to serve, remember.
Anyway, comments were made in the weeks running up to the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran that began the current conflict in the Middle East. Yo, that one of the other things I saw here, You are being anti-Semitic? Yes, I know. I know. What was I going to say? Oh, one of the other ways of trying to understand whether or not the war effort is going well is by listening to our vassal. Now, there is varying degrees of being cucked, right? The maximum cucking is when you're Kash Patel, right? Kash Patel level is like the maximum cuck, where your girlfriend is holding someone else's hand during a shootout, right? And you're embarrassed by this because it's reported on in the Gray Lady, the paper of record, the New York Times. So England is fairly cucked to the United States of America, but I wouldn't say Kash Patel level cucked, right? They're not Kash level, if that's the highest level of being cucked. But there is one country in Europe that is, I think, Kash level cucked, and that country is Germany. And even German leadership has been openly saying that Iran has embarrassed America. So when you got German leadership, Merz specifically, the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, the man with the most expensive haircut of all time with nothing to show for it, coming out and saying Iran is humiliating the U.S., that's when you know things have gotten out of hand. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz questioned the U.S. exit strategy in Iran, warning Washington is being humiliated as Tehran negotiates very skillfully and appears stronger than expected. Speaking to students in Marsburg, he urged a swift end to the conflict, citing mounting economic fallout for Germany. Let's hear what he had to say. The Americans obviously have no strategy. We have seen this very painfully in Afghanistan for 20 years.
Da muss man auch wieder raus. Das haben wir ganz schmerzhaft bei Afghanistan gesehen. 20 Jahre.
We've seen that in Iraq.
Wir haben das im Irak gesehen. Also diese Geschichte
So this story is, as I said, at least ill-considered.
Und ich erkenne im Augenblick
I don't recognize at the moment which strategic exit the Americans are now choosing, especially since the Iranians are obviously negotiating very cleverly, and then let the Americans travel to Islamabad and leave again without results. It humiliates an entire nation. The Iranian government, particularly through the so-called Revolutionary Guards, and I don't see how that can be achieved in the short term, because the Iranians are obviously stronger than expected, and the Americans, clearly, they do not have a really convincing strategy in the negotiations either. Friedrich Merz, I think, genuinely nutted when America bombed Iran alongside Israel, okay? He might have actually dropped the fat rope on camera when he found out. He was so giddy. Friedrich Merz, who has famously said things like, Israel is doing our dirty work. That man is now saying Americans are embarrassing themselves. Iran is putting belt to ass. This was the Chancellor's statement. The USA and Israel have been conducting massive military strikes against Iran since Saturday. Chancellor Merz is in close contact with European partners, Israel, and partners in the region. He will discuss developments with U.S. President Trump in Washington on Tuesday. The regime threatened Israel's existence, was responsible for the terror of Hamas and Hezbollah, and its nuclear and missile programs threaten peace and security, said the Chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome on the situation in the Middle East. On this beautiful Sunday, in recent days and weeks, we witnessed an unprecedented number of wars and upheaval, both around the world and in our neighborhood. The lines of conflict are becoming increasingly blurred. Existing rules, including those of international law, are disregarded more and more. By America and Israel, by the way, but he says it's by Hamas and Iran. Another Merz clip has hit the timeline. Oh my God. At this point, I'm disillusioned simply because US and Israel claimed at the beginning that they could solve this problem within days. Now I must recognize it is not solved. He said Germany and the EU have also have own European ideas on how to get a resolution of the conflict and will continue their diplomatic coordination with the US. Underway again for Germany for some time now. Oh, dude, he's doing, oh my God, he's doing bilateral talks with Iran. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Iran is literally forcing multipolarity. That's crazy. I cannot believe it. It's unheard of. I will be honest with you, I never thought it would be Iran. Like, I thought, multipolarity being forced upon the world by the likes of another warring party like Russia. And this doesn't justify Russia's actions, by the way. I'm not saying that like Russia was justifiable in invading Ukraine. I don't think so. I don't think they are. But that was shaking the system. That was shaking and shook America's hegemonic status, especially because after, multiple years at this point, the entirety of the Western world's support has not been able to successfully purge Russia from the boundaries of Ukraine. Again, this is not, I'm not saying this is good, okay? I'm not saying that. I know a lot of you get very sensitive around the Ukraine issue when you hear someone that has a different perspective than you. And I have to be extra sensitive and extra careful when I talk about Ukraine. Now that I know Ukraine objectively has shooters in the United States of America, I don't want to be the target of their enmity, okay? I apologize, Dylan Burns. Please don't send your Fedayeen after me, okay? I don't want Ryan Ruth, his 1,000 NATO-trained Afghan soldiers, or Cole Allen to come and assassinate me. I'm not the fucking president. Okay, so I have to be extra careful on this issue, just qualifying all my statements. But here's the thing. I would have expected Russia to force America's hand and show the European partners that there are other regional powers out there who are capable of being insane enough and like break the system of unipolarity, break the system of American hegemony. I never thought that country would be Iran. I guess these things work in coordination and tandem with one another, but Iran, by simply approaching this issue because they see it as a crisis of survival and being steadfast in their defense of their own sovereignty, has forced the hand of European counterparts that have been vassals for far too long into bilateral commitments with Iran. I don't know what those commitments are going to look like. I don't know what those commitments will look like, but I suspect that any kind of decision making that does not involve the United States of America, any kind of bilateral decision making with Iran, is a major step against American hegemony. And Iran, I think, would not have this much success in getting assurances from European allies if it wasn't Donald Trump leading the helm, leading the war effort. If it was a competent Republican, for example, or if it was a competent Democrat, I think they would do a lot better as far as maintaining relationships. They probably would not have invaded Iran. We know this because even the most insane, the most intensely ultra-Zionist leadership on the Democratic side with Joe Biden objectively did not bomb Iran, right? They were training for it. They were training for the opportunity. And if you believe Amos Hochstein, they were going to do it, but they didn't. Trump did. Trump took it there. And not only did Trump take it there, but Trump has also been undermining its global partners, its NATO partners that are profoundly important to maintaining American military-industrial contracts, maintaining American interests all around the globe, as Mark Rutte has openly admitted. I think all of that is the reason why even these goddamn servile cucks that are in charge of great industrial powers like Germany, the economic engine that runs the European Union, are finally saying, yeah, maybe we got to reconsider America's position on the global stage. It's kismet. It's perfectly chaotic. And some might even assume this was an inevitability considering how vast the American empire was, spread too thin. No country can be everywhere all at once and be a domineering force for thousands of years. So there was an inevitability that the end of American empire would come, but I do think Donald Trump has accelerated the demise, for sure. I guess the accelerationists were right in that regard. Merz is a waffling cretin, militarizing Germany, radicalizing society, and losing support faster than Starmer, making a takeover by the post-Nazi AfD all but inevitable. Yeah, the bigger question here is if the Americans are as strategically stupid as Merz is saying, why do Germany and the rest of the European leadership insist on tying their future to them? Where is Germany or Europe's independent strategy on Iran? Didn't Merz issue, together with Macron and Starmer, a joint statement at the beginning of the war condemning Iran for the war? Doesn't that make them even more strategically inept when your own public diagnosis is that the ship is sinking and your response is to stay on board? This is just vassalage with editorial commentary, which is even more strategically stupid than whatever Trump is doing. Yeah, I mean, if this kind of negative sentiment is not tied with like bilateral commitments that undermine America's interests, then it's nothing. Then yeah, you are even dumber than Donald Trump, right? It's true. We shall see. When he says Germany and the EU have their own European ideas on how to get a resolution on the conflict that will continue their diplomatic efforts in coordination with the US, perhaps they will do that. I don't know what that looks like as it stands currently. I don't have a lot of confidence in especially this crop of European leadership, because many of them are still very much neoliberals, very much center-right figures, very much figures that are invested in defending the interests of the same international consortium of capital that the American leadership is invested in defending the interests of. So I don't know where they will go, but this is opening up potentially new opportunities. Once again, it'll just never not be funny that these guys know how fucking stupid Donald Trump is. They know how childish he is, and they're at the mercy of the whims of a madman. And they have to play ball, and they have to glaze him, and they have to like humiliate themselves. They have to debase themselves to ensure that they do not receive the wrath of American empire. They're like, please, Mr. President, don't invade a NATO country. That was the conversation, remember. These guys that have talked about how big of a threat Russia is to European security had to now cover their left flank out of nowhere. They were like, what? What do you mean you are going to militarily annex a piece of the European continent? You already have bases everywhere. What are you talking about? And every time Donald Trump gets mad, he floats that shit over and over again. Part of the reason why the king is here in the United States, aside from his joint session address, is because he has to explain to him that Canada is a part of the Commonwealth. As in, if he's trying to urge Trump by using his symbolic status and you know, Trump's interest in the royal family to stop him from militarily annexing parts of Canada. It sounds like a joke. If you were to tell me, not 10 years ago, because 10 years ago it was still Trump, but if you were to tell me 20 years ago, okay, if you were to tell me 20 years ago that this is what would be happening right now, like that the American president was threatening to militarily annex Canada, threatened to militarily annex parts of Europe, and that that he had the attitude of a baby, like a child, and that the British king or the queen at the time would have to do a visit to beg the American president not to invade Canada and to remind or educate the person, the American president, that like Canada is a part of the Commonwealth, so you're technically invading, you know, a part of the great British Empire. I would assume that, I mean, I would say that's unbelievable. There's just no shot.